think that's kind of, you're touching upon a very, very big question that people in the industry, and I'm talking about industry, B2B media and events, which represents the majority of the audience that we have here. We have about 40% media, 40% events, and the rest will be B2B organizations, which is okay. I have my event, I run my event, whatever size that is, or my portfolio events that is. And they always think about the size. And I just want to kind of to delve a little bit more into that, the size, the niche versus big. We could
Yeah.
see back in the day, and some of the organizations that have kind of these big communities, someone that I admire, Sift Group, has amazing communities from a very long time, IQPC, you guys and everything. And I guess we don't really know how it all started, but our view as audiences that they're big, they have 9, 10, 10, 20, e-consultancy grew to 200,000 at some point. So right now, everyone is always thinking, okay, what is the right size, big or small? And everyone thinks that they should be big. So what is your view? And essentially, you are running you're an expert in communities, and you're running a tool that runs communities, right? So you have a little bit of context. So what is the best size? What is the best group? And if you need to kind of to bring up any of the graphics, please give me a nudge. But what makes sense? Is it better big or small?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is it does depend a little bit. I mean, and again, I think in B2C it is different because you can have very large communities where everyone's sort of, like GIFGAF and things, customer support type communities can work quite well. In B2B, I think that can be a little harder because often there's, more senior people, more junior people, there's buyers and sellers. And so there are sort of dynamics at play, which can, mean that often you need smaller, I think, peer groups where it's, and also there's more domain expertise in B2B, some specialist topic area, which those people are super excited about, but then there are not many of them, so yeah, generally, and in fact, maybe if you got that slide I sent you with just showing the sort of various concentric circles, and I'd be interested to see, obviously, we'll get feedback on this, and I assume we'll be sharing these. In fact, I can post them into the professional community leaders thing later. Yeah, that's the one. That's it. Yeah, there. So, because we get asked this quite a lot, and it's something we think about for Gill as well, which obviously is mobile. And I don't think you want to be in the equivalent of a WhatsApp group with 14,000 people. It's quite an intimate, personal experience. So it probably shouldn't be too big. But we have a guy, Professor Robin Dunbar, who's on our advisory board, and he's famous for the Dunbar number, which is about 150, which is the maximum number of people any human can really know. It's a limitation of our brain, and that's not changing very quickly. So if you kind of map that, there's a link there. We did a post about sort of professional networking, but I think it applies to communities too, where you have these kind of it actually goes up in multiples of sort of 5 actually, and this is based on this is science, evolutionary anthropology, and how human networks work and form, and tribes, how they've worked through history, and Amish communities, army units, they all break down into certain quite predictable patterns actually. So I would say that 3 to 5 people, 5 to 15, very hard to make a B2B community out of that because it's too small. That's a kind of individual experience. We find that the groups, networks, and communities in B2B tend to be between 15 and 1,500, which might sound like quite a big range, and different sorts of community suit different use cases within that. But for example, the average group size on Guild at the moment is about 120, which is spookily close to the Dunbar number. I think if you go above 1,500, you go out of the sphere that any human can actually remember even a name, let alone how they're kind of connected with someone. And that to me is marketing. I mean, so that can still be, that's your sort of touch points, sphere of influence, or this nice phrase I like from Lisa Reichelt. She talked about ambient intimacy. So it's sort of like there, and you have a presence. But that's what things like LinkedIn and Twitter and all that feel like that now. But you don't really know the people. You don't really have a personal kind of connection with them. So personally, it feels to me like these B2B communities work well in that 50 to 1,000, you know, and a lot of them between, you know, 150 to 300. That works well. And also because, which I saw, you know, on your other slides, there are these surprisingly consistent, you know, rules or things around how many people are actually active or engaged in the community.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, only 10%-ish of maybe actively contributing. And that's true whether that's an event, whether it's Guild, whether it's linked to any of this thing. It's just the way certain people are more talkative than others and things. So if you only have 10%, let's say, contributing to a group, if you've got 50 people, that might only be 5 people. It doesn't mean the others aren't getting value, but it just might feel a little bit empty. And so there is, you know, sometimes you need a certain quorum, a certain number of people in order to get enough of this sort of chatty motivator types for it to feel like it's got a natural momentum and life of its own.